Thank you all for joining me today. In our meeting today, we're going to talk about an HR scorecard and why I feel that it is important for our organization and the benefits that it could provide to us. First off, we should talk about why it is important to have an HR scorecard. So, the HR department can really help improve our employee performance, which will help our productivity. It can help with the budget and decreasing some of our costs and also help increase our revenue. It can help us achieve the strategic objectives that we set for our organization. It can propel us into the future. And really the question should be, can we afford not to have an HR scorecard as we are competing in this intense, very competitive environment? Other organizations are utilizing these, and it's about time we do as well. Included in this slide are the metrics that we're going to be measuring. Now you'll all be distributed this graph later to look at and go over, so don't feel bad if you don't see everything now, and we'll be going into each of the metrics in further detail. We see we have 4: voluntary turnover, additional skills training, onboarding costs, and the internal promotion rate. We're going to talk about how we obtain all of this information and what we're going to do with it. The first metric is voluntary turnover. So we want to determine how much of the turnover, the employees that we are losing, is voluntary. We want to know if that is the majority. So we're going to be counting all the people that leave the organization and measure if they are actually leaving on their own volition or for other reasons. We'll be doing monthly reports on this information. We're going to be reacting accordingly. If there's a certain area that has more people leaving voluntarily, we'll look into why. If there's a certain type of job, a certain type of employee that's leaving voluntarily, all this information is going to be extremely beneficial to us. We'll be able to make moves and changes based off all this information that we gather. The second metric that we're going to measure is additional skills training. So we want to see what percentage of employees that are receiving additional training and gaining more skills throughout the year. This is very important to us if we want to remain competitive, if we want to remain at the top of our industry. We need to have employees that are trained to the best of their abilities. We need to be continuing to give them newer skills, newer knowledge so that they can perform better and better and set ourselves apart. This can also help us increase our productivity. So we're going to be tracking our different training programs, the opportunities that we give to our employees throughout the year, and see how many employees are actually gaining new skills within the organization. The next metric we want to observe are our onboarding costs, and these are the costs that we want to track associated with hiring and training new employees. This kind of goes hand in hand with the employees who are voluntarily leaving the organization. But to determine the cost and to track metrics, we're going to need to work closely with our finance and accounting departments to get financial numbers from them. And the real goal here is to decrease costs that are not adding value to the organization, such as these unnecessary costs, these extra costs that come along with hiring and training these new employees. Finally, our last metric is the internal promotion rate. So here at Walt Disney World, we feel that one of our greatest strengths, one of our really core competencies, is the culture that we have here within the organization, the message and the work ethic, the image that our employees uphold. In order to continue this trend within the organization, it is very important that managers and levels above them have worked within the organization. They are familiar with it. So it's important to have these managers, these other employees, work their way up through the company. So twice a year, we want to analyze the workforce and see how many of these higher level employees have started their careers and worked for many years within the organization. And if the number is low, see if there is a reason why this is happening. If it is employees voluntarily leaving the organization, not a lot of employees who want to work long term. And if there are issues, if there is a lack of these long term employees, we'll see what we can do to fix it, because this is something that can really separate us from our competitors. Now, these ideas we talked about do sound good in theory, but there are going to be some obstacles that we have to overcome. First is the cost, devoting the resources and funds necessary to collect and analyze these metrics. Some might think we should use different metrics. We should be measuring different things within the organization, but we have thought about what would really be the best fit for our organization, what is really going to help us continue to grow, continue to be very productive, to prosper. And what we have presented to you today is what we feel is best for us. Now, we also are going to need buy-in from other departments, from their management. So we have to convince them that what we observe, the information we gather, is going to be helpful not only for the HR department, but for the entire organization as a whole. We feel that the points, the information we've talked about today, will help convince them that it is extremely important that everyone serves to benefit from this information. So thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please let us know.